Imagine this, a single room lit by candlelight. Three great minds gathered across time: Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, and Carl Jung. They sit at one table, their voices weaving together in a dialogue that was never recorded, but lives in imagination. Tonight, they discuss the secret law of wealth. What is it? Where does it come from? And how do we live it? You are about to hear the conversation.
My friend, I will begin here, for I must tell you what I have proven in my own life, and in the lives of thousands who sought my counsel. The subconscious mind is the silent ruler of man's destiny. It governs the body. It governs the circumstances. It governs the flow of wealth or poverty. And until one learns how to speak to this silent ruler, he will remain at the mercy of chance, of fear, of suggestion. The secret law of wealth, as I have found it, is the law of subconscious impression. Whatever is impressed upon this deeper mind, with feeling and faith, is expressed in your world. A man who believes he is poor, though his purse may be full for a time, will find ways to return to poverty, because the seed of poverty is planted within. A man who believes he is wealthy, though his account may be empty for a season, will find ways for wealth to flow, because the seed of wealth is planted within. The subconscious knows no logic, no reasoning. It knows only what you feel as true. Now, let us consider how this law operates. Each thought is a seed, but not every thought takes root. Only those clothed in feeling, in conviction, in repetition descend into the subconscious soil. When you say to yourself, "I am wealthy," without feeling, it is as wind passing. But when you say it with conviction, with gratitude, with expectancy, the subconscious accepts it as law, and life itself rearranges to bring it forth. I recall a man, deeply in debt, who came to me distressed. I told him, "Each night, as you lie in bed, affirm softly, with faith, 'I am prosperous. I give thanks for abundance now.' Do not argue with appearances. Speak to your subconscious as though wealth were already yours." He obeyed. He persisted. In a short time, unexpected channels opened, debts dissolved, opportunities came. He said to me, "It is as though my words reached a hidden power that arranged my affairs." And indeed, they had. The subconscious is that hidden power. Call it divine mind. Call it infinite intelligence. Call it law. It is all one. It does not argue. It does not reject. It accepts. And what it accepts, it expresses. Now, some say wealth comes by toil alone. I say, toil without inner order is wasted. Have you not seen men labor endlessly, yet remain poor? Have you not seen others labor little, yet wealth surrounds them? It is not toil, it is subconscious alignment. When the inner pattern is impressed with wealth, toil becomes fruitful. When the inner pattern is impressed with lack, toil is in vain. Therefore, to live in wealth, you must first impress wealth within. Speak to your subconscious daily. Use affirmations not as vain words, but as seeds clothed in faith. Say, "I am guided to success. Wealth flows to me freely, abundantly, joyously. Divine order governs my affairs. I give thanks now for infinite supply." Repeat this until it sinks in. The subconscious, hearing it repeatedly with feeling, will accept it. And once accepted, it must express. I must emphasize the role of gratitude here. Gratitude is the language of acceptance. When you give thanks for wealth before it appears, the subconscious assumes it is already yours, and reality conforms. I have seen this law heal bodies, restore minds, and yes, fill bank accounts. Let me give another example. A woman, poor and anxious, told me she could not find work. I instructed her, each morning, affirm quietly, "I am divinely guided to my right place. Wealth of opportunity flows to me now." She did so faithfully, and soon, she was offered a position she had not even applied for. She said, "It came as if out of nowhere." But it was not nowhere. It was the subconscious arranging circumstances in response to her new belief. So I say to you, the subconscious is the soil. Your thoughts are the seeds. Plant wisely. Speak with conviction. Clothe your affirmations in feeling, in gratitude, in expectancy. Persist, and wealth must appear. This is law. And if you should doubt, remember this. The subconscious governs even your heart and blood without your effort. It heals cuts. It grows the child in the womb. It arranges 1,000 functions beyond your conscious control. If it can govern the body, can it not govern your affairs? Trust it, feed it, guide it, and it will serve you. So my conclusion is this. The secret law of wealth is the law of subconscious impression. Wealth begins within, in the feeling of abundance impressed upon the deeper mind. Without that, all effort is toil. With it, even the smallest effort bears fruit. Neville, you speak often of imagination. Jung, you speak of shadow and archetype. But I ask you both, what is imagination? What is archetype? If not the language by which we impress the subconscious, tell me then, is not the subconscious the true ruler of wealth?
Joseph, I have listened carefully, and I honor what you have said. The subconscious is indeed a faithful servant. It is true, it accepts without question. It is true, it carries out the command impressed upon it. But here I must draw the line. The subconscious does not originate. It does not create on its own. It is imagination that is the master, and the subconscious but its servant. For what is impressed upon the subconscious, Joseph, if not imagination first? A man may affirm, I am wealthy, but unless he imagines himself wealthy, unless he feels the end, the subconscious receives nothing. Words without imagination are barren. Feeling without picture is directionless. It is imagination clothed in feeling that creates. Let me give you an example. A woman once came to me in dire need. She had repeated affirmations faithfully, but nothing changed. She said, I say the words, Neville, but my life remains the same. I told her, you are repeating words, but you are not living in the end. You must imagine yourself already wealthy, already free, already at peace. Enter the state and live in it until it feels natural. She obeyed. Each night before sleep, she imagined herself writing checks with ease, feeling the joy of abundance. Within weeks, her outer world changed. She said, the world conformed to my assumption. This is the law. Imagination creates reality. The subconscious obeys, yes, but it is imagination that commands. Joseph, you spoke of the subconscious healing the body, arranging the blood, directing the heart. This is true. But I say, even that is imagination's work. For the subconscious is imagination asleep, while the conscious act of imagining is imagination awake. When you direct your imagination with feeling, the subconscious accepts and expresses. Let us be precise here. The secret law of wealth is not merely to speak to the subconscious, but to live in the imaginal end, to walk as though it were already done, to assume the state until it becomes your dwelling. Do not say, I will be wealthy. That is to place wealth in the future. Say instead, I am wealthy now. And more than words, feel it, see it, hear it. Enter the room of wealth in your imagination and refuse to leave. Then the subconscious, being impressionable, will accept this imaginal act as fact and reproduce it in your outer world. Consider the story of a man who desired promotion. He did not beg, he did not plead. Each night, he imagined himself shaking his employer's hand, hearing the words, congratulations. He felt the grip of the hand, the joy of success. He persisted until it felt real. Soon, the event occurred exactly as he had imagined. Was it the subconscious alone? No. It was imagination directing the subconscious. Another woman longed for freedom from poverty. She imagined her sister congratulating her, saying, "I'm so happy for your success." She heard the words. She felt the embrace. She lived in the joy. In a short time, her life reflected her assumption. So I ask you, Joseph, what is the subconscious without imagination? It is an obedient servant, but it does not choose. Imagination chooses. Imagination selects the state. Imagination decides the end. The subconscious only carries out what imagination impresses. Now, let me speak of feeling. For imagination without feeling is weak. You may picture 1,000 scenes, but unless you feel their reality, they are empty. The subconscious is moved by feeling, and feeling is the clothed power of imagination. This is why I say, feeling is the secret. When you enter an imaginal scene and feel its truth, you impress the subconscious. And what is impressed must be expressed. Not sometimes, but always. Joseph, you spoke rightly of gratitude. I too teach this. Gratitude is the feeling of possession. When you give thanks for wealth before you see it, you are assuming the end. Gratitude is imagination clothed in fulfillment. But again, I return to this. Imagination is the source. Without imagination, the subconscious has nothing to accept. Without imagination, gratitude has no object. Without imagination, affirmations are empty. Now, let me turn to Carl, for I know he listens. Carl, you speak often of shadow and archetype. You say a man may imagine wealth, but his repressed fears may sabotage him. I ask you, is not shadow itself an imaginal construct? Is it not imagination that gives form to archetype? And is it not imagination that revises, integrates, redeems? If a man imagines his past differently, has he not dissolved the shadow? If he imagines himself whole, has he not assumed individuation? I do not deny your psychology, Carl, but I say again, imagination is the foundation. For even the shadow is an image, and to revise the shadow is to change the image. So Joseph, Carl, my stance is clear. The secret law of wealth is not subconscious alone, nor archetype alone, but imagination. Imagination is the beginning and the end. It is the creator. It is the reality behind appearances. The world you see is imagination pushed out. Poverty is an imaginal state. Wealth is an imaginal state. Choose wisely. Live in the end, and the end must appear. So I say to you both, speak not merely of subconscious law, speak not merely of archetypes, but of imagination. For imagination is the root, the seed, the power. And I say to you listening now, tonight, before you sleep, imagine the life you desire as though it were already yours. Enter it, feel it, rest in it, and persist. For imagination, when persisted in, hardens into fact. Joseph, you may call it subconscious. Carl, you may call it psyche. I call it imagination. And imagination is the only reality.
My friends, I have listened carefully to both of you. Joseph, you speak of the subconscious as the silent ruler. Neville, you speak of imagination as the creative force. Each of you is right, and each of you is incomplete. For you have spoken of the mind as though it were a servant awaiting instruction, or as a dream that once persisted becomes reality. But what of that which resists instruction? What of that which distorts the dream? I speak, of course, of the shadow. The shadow is not mere darkness, not evil in the childish sense, but the unacknowledged, the repressed, the hidden within the psyche. A man may affirm wealth by day, Neville. He may imagine abundance by night. But if within him there lies a shadow of fear, of unworthiness, of resentment, then that shadow will sabotage his assumption. You both speak as though man is a commander of inner forces, but I tell you, he is often a divided kingdom. The conscious mind affirms one thing, imagination paints another, but the shadow whispers yet another. And until the shadow is faced, wealth will be partial, unstable, or destructive. Consider this. Many men attain wealth outwardly, yet remain impoverished within. They are slaves to greed, to fear of loss, to compulsions they do not understand. They have not integrated the shadow, and so their wealth devours them. Joseph, you may say, speak to the subconscious with conviction. Neville, you may say, assume the end until it feels real. But I say, unless a man confronts the hidden within, the envy, the self-doubt, the resentment toward wealth, the fear of success, he builds his mansion upon sand. Now, let us speak of archetypes, for wealth is not merely coins and notes. Wealth is an archetypal image, abundance, fertility, harvest, gold. These symbols live deep in the collective unconscious. When a man seeks wealth, he awakens not only personal desires, but collective images. If he resists these archetypes, he becomes their victim. If he integrates them, he becomes their master. You both speak of law. I speak of individuation, the process by which a man becomes whole, by integrating shadow, by uniting opposites, by reconciling the conscious with the unconscious. Wealth is part of this process. For true wealth is not accumulation, but integration. It is the harmony of inner forces expressed outwardly. Let me give you an example. A businessman once came to me. Outwardly, he was successful. Inwardly, he was plagued by nightmares of poverty, by compulsive fears of loss. He had never examined the root, a childhood humiliation, a father's scorn, a shadow of unworthiness. Until he faced that shadow, no amount of success satisfied him. But when he confronted it in analysis, when he gave it form, when he integrated it, peace came. Then his wealth was not bondage, but freedom. Another man dreamed, constantly, of gold. He thought it a prophecy of riches. But I told him, gold is not merely money. It is the symbol of the self, the eternal treasure within. If you seek gold only outwardly, you miss its meaning. But if you integrate its inner reality, outward gold may follow as symbol, not master. So you see, Joseph, Neville, you speak of methods, affirmation, imagination. But I speak of depth. Without depth, methods are fragile. And let me not forget synchronicity, the mysterious principle of meaningful coincidence. You call it law. You call it imagination. I call it a causal connection between inner and outer events. A man integrates his shadow. He honors the archetype of abundance. And then life arranges coincidences, a meeting, an opportunity, a gift, not chance, not toil, but meaningful pattern. Joseph, you might say it's the subconscious arranging circumstances. Neville, you might call it imagination hardening into fact. I say, it is synchronicity, the psyche revealing its unity with the cosmos. Wealth, then, is not merely repetition of words, nor merely assumption of scenes. It is the alchemy of the whole psyche. It is the integration of shadow, the honoring of archetypes, the recognition of synchronicity. Without these, wealth may come, but it will be hollow. With these, wealth becomes not only possession, but meaning. Now let me cross-question. Joseph, you said, the subconscious accepts whatever is impressed with feeling. But tell me, what of those impressions buried deep, imprinted in childhood, repressed for years? Do they not also command the subconscious? Does not the child's wound still govern the adult's fate unless brought to light? Can your affirmations uproot what is not even seen? And Neville, you said, imagination creates reality. But I ask you, what if imagination is poisoned by the shadow? What if the dream one lives in is unconsciously shaped by fear and resentment? Will not the outer reality reflect that poison? Must we not cleanse imagination itself by confronting what lies beneath? So I say to you both, the secret law of wealth is not subconscious alone, nor imagination alone. It is integration. It is individuation. It is the alchemy of the psyche, in which light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, imagination and archetype are joined. Only then does wealth become whole, stable, and truly free. Wealth without integration is a mask. Wealth with integration is gold. And the greatest gold is not in the bank, but in the soul. So I end with this. Seek not wealth as escape, but as symbol of inner union. Confront the shadow, honor the archetype, attend to synchronicity. And then, Joseph, Neville, you will see that the true law of wealth is the law of wholeness.
My dear friends, I have listened with interest to both of you. Neville, you exalt imagination. Carl, you honor the shadow and archetypes, and each of you makes a valid case. Yet I return to my premise. The subconscious is the silent ruler, the medium through which every law operates. Neville, you say imagination commands. I do not deny this. But imagination without subconscious acceptance is powerless. A man may imagine castles all night long, but if his subconscious rejects them as fantasy, they will not appear. The subconscious is the soil. Imagination is the seed. Without soil, no seed grows. The subconscious does not merely obey. It sustains, it nourishes, it expresses. Carl, you speak of shadow, of buried impressions from childhood, of repressed fears. Again, I do not deny this. But where do these shadows live? They live in the subconscious. Where do these buried impressions lie? They are stored in that deeper mind, which never forgets, never sleeps. And where must healing occur? In the subconscious. For until the subconscious is re-educated, until it is cleansed and impressed with truth, the shadow continues to govern. You ask me, Carl, can affirmations uproot what is not seen? I answer, yes, for truth, spoken with conviction, penetrates even to the hidden recesses. The subconscious accepts suggestion, whether conscious or unconscious. If a man affirms with faith, if he repeats with feeling, even the deepest impressions are gradually replaced. The old is cast out, the new takes root. This is not theory. I have seen it in thousands of cases. Let me tell you of a man, tormented by failure since childhood. He had been told by his father, "You will never amount to anything." This impression sank deep, and his life reflected it. Constant defeat, endless struggle. He came to me, broken. I told him, each day, declare, I am a child of God, I am successful, I prosper in all ways. Speak it until it sinks into your subconscious. He did so faithfully. At first, he felt nothing, but in time, the words sank deep. The old belief dissolved. The shadow was healed. He rose to success and peace. So, Carl, I do not deny the shadow. I say the shadow is nothing but false suggestion lodged in the subconscious, and the remedy is true suggestion, repeated until accepted. Neville, you ask, who commands the subconscious, if not imagination? I grant you this. Imagination is the channel by which suggestion enters. But I maintain, suggestion must reach the subconscious, or else it is mere daydream. Many imagine without effect because they do not impress the subconscious. They drift in fantasy, but the soil remains untouched. Imagination becomes reality only when it penetrates to the subconscious with feeling. And here is the law. The subconscious does not reason. It does not argue. It does not question. It accepts whatever is repeated with feeling. Whether truth or falsehood, good or bad, it makes real. This is why affirmations, prayer, and thanksgiving are powerful. They are vehicles to impress the subconscious. You both may call it imagination, shadow, archetype. I call it the law of belief. For belief is nothing but the idea accepted by the subconscious as true. Once accepted, it must express. Let me speak further of wealth. Wealth is not merely coins, nor merely archetype. Wealth is a state of consciousness impressed upon the subconscious. A man who believes himself poor cannot remain rich, even if fortune is given him, for he will squander it. A man who believes himself wealthy cannot remain poor, even if stripped of possessions, for he will find means again. I knew a man who lost all in a fire. His business was gone, his savings destroyed. Yet he said to me, "Joseph, I know the law. Wealth is in me, not in the building." He affirmed daily, "Infinite supply is mine. God's riches flow to me." In a short time, he rebuilt, greater than before. Why? Because his subconscious remained impressed with wealth, and life reflected it. Carl, you speak of archetypes, of gold as symbol of the self. I do not deny symbolism, but symbols are only powerful because they stir the subconscious. Gold is wealth not by accident, but because the subconscious responds to it as abundance. Dreams, archetypes, shadows, all are languages of the subconscious. They are not independent laws. They are forms through which the law of subconscious impression speaks. And you speak of synchronicity. Again, I do not deny, but synchronicity is nothing but subconscious mind in harmony with universal law. When a man impresses wealth upon his deeper mind, life arranges coincidences, meetings, opportunities. To him, it seems miraculous. To me, it is law. So I stand by this. The secret law of wealth is belief impressed upon the subconscious. Imagination may paint, but belief must clothe it. Archetypes may stir, but belief must fix them. Shadow may resist, but belief repeated dissolves it. Now let me cross-question in turn. Neville, you said imagination creates reality. But I ask, have you not seen men who imagine endlessly, yet nothing changes? They live in castles of fantasy, but their lives remain poor. Why? Because they do not impress the subconscious. Their imaginal acts lack feeling, lack faith, lack persistence. Without subconscious impression, imagination is vapor. Do you not see this? And Carl, you said the shadow sabotages wealth. But I ask, is not the shadow itself a belief? A child told he is worthless. That is suggestion impressed upon the subconscious. Resentment, fear, envy. All are suggestions stored within. If so, then the remedy is to impress new belief, divine truth. Speak it, imagine it, affirm it, until the subconscious accepts it. Then the shadow dissolves. Must we complicate what is simple law? I do not deny imagination, nor shadow, nor archetype. But I insist, the seat of power is the subconscious. To it must all roads return. It is the soil in which all seeds grow. So I say, if you would be wealthy, impress wealth upon your subconscious. Do it by affirmation, by prayer, by gratitude, by imagining with feeling. Do it until it takes root. Then wealth must appear. This is law, unchanging, unfailing. Neville, Carl, you may clothe it in different terms, but I tell you, The true law of wealth is the law of belief, impressed upon the subconscious mind.
Joseph, Carl, I've heard your words and I honor the truth in each. Joseph, you call the subconscious the soil. Carl, you call the shadow the saboteur. But I must return to the beginning, for both of you stop short of the fountain itself. The fountain is imagination. Joseph, you say imagination is useless unless it impresses the subconscious. But tell me, what impresses the subconscious if not imagination? You speak of affirmation, of repetition, of belief. But belief itself is nothing but imagination accepted. A man believes he is poor because he imagines poverty and accepts it. He believes he is wealthy because he imagines abundance and accepts it. The subconscious obeys the belief. Yes, but the belief is born in imagination. Without imagination, belief cannot exist. Carl, you say the shadow sabotages. But what is the shadow if not an image? A child imagines himself worthless because of words spoken in cruelty, and that image persists. The subconscious holds it, yes, but it was born in imagination. And how shall it be healed? By imagining anew, by revising the past, by creating a new image, by assuming a new end. Revision is the alchemy of the shadow, and revision is nothing but imagination at work. So I say again, imagination is the seed, the soil, and the harvest. It is the alpha and the omega. The subconscious is the field, yes, but imagination tills it, plants it, waters it. The shadow may resist, but imagination transforms it. Without imagination, there is nothing to impress, nothing to heal, nothing to integrate. Let me speak plainly. All that you call subconscious, all that you call archetype, all that you call shadow, they are forms of imagination. The subconscious is imagination asleep. The conscious act of imagining is imagination awake. Archetypes are collective images in imagination. The shadow is rejected imagination. All roads lead to one source. Now, Joseph, you ask, have I not seen men imagine endlessly, yet nothing changes? Yes, I've seen it. But they did not imagine with feeling. They did not imagine with persistence. They treated imagination as fantasy, not as fact. They dreamed lightly, then returned to the old state. That is not imagination in the true sense. For true imagination is assumption, the act of living in the end until it feels real. A man may say, I imagine wealth, but if he leaves the scene of wealth and walks in poverty of feeling, he has abandoned his assumption. Imagination must be persisted in, lived in, felt as true, until it saturates the subconscious. Then it hardens into fact. So I say to you, Joseph, affirmation, repetition, belief, these are but techniques of imagination. They are imaginal acts, repeated until they are accepted. You clothe imagination in words. You call it affirmation. I clothe imagination in scenes. I call it assumption. But the root is the same. And Carl, you ask, what if imagination is poisoned by the shadow? I answer, imagination poisoned is still imagination, but imagination redeemed is salvation. The shadow is only an imaginal construct. Revise it, and it dissolves. Integrate it, and it becomes strength. You say a man must confront his shadow. I say, yes, confront it in imagination, and imagine it whole. You speak of archetypes. of gold as symbol, of wealth as collective image. But symbols live in imagination. Archetypes are imaginal patterns of the collective. When a man assumes wealth, he aligns with the archetype of abundance. When he revises his shadow, he aligns with the archetype of wholeness. Even synchronicity, Carl, is but imagination unfolding in time. So let us not exalt the servant above the master. The subconscious obeys imagination. The shadow dissolves before imagination. Archetypes are garments of imagination. All is imagination. Let me give you proof. A woman once told me she had been humiliated in youth, told she was worthless. She carried the shadow all her life. She tried affirmations, but they felt hollow. She tried analysis, but the wound remained. I told her, revise the scene. Imagine your father praising you instead. Hear the words you wish had been spoken. Feel the love, the approval, the worth. She did so, night after night, until the new scene felt real. Soon her outer life changed. Opportunities opened. Her wealth grew. What healed her? Not affirmation alone, not analysis alone. Imagination healed her. Another man, crushed by failure, told me he affirmed success, but still feared poverty. I told him, imagine your success already complete. See yourself celebrating with friends. Hear them say, you did it. Feel the joy, the relief, the pride. He persisted, and success came. Again, it was imagination. So Joseph, Carl, I say to you both, your laws are true, but they are branches. The root is imagination. The subconscious is soil, yes, but imagination plants the seed. The shadow is resistance, yes, but imagination transforms it. Without imagination, the soil is barren. The shadow remains. The archetype lies dormant. Therefore, I declare, the secret law of wealth is the law of imagination. Imagine the end. Feel it real. Persist until it hardens into fact. The subconscious will obey. The shadow will yield. Synchronicity will align. Imagination is the only reality. All else is commentary. So I ask you both, if imagination can heal the shadow, if imagination can re-educate the subconscious, if imagination can call forth synchronicity, then is it not imagination that is the true law of wealth?
My friends, I must thank you both, for your passion reveals the very tension I have long observed in mankind. Joseph, you exalt the subconscious. Neville, you exalt imagination. Yet I must caution you both. What is exalted can also become inflated, and inflation of the psyche is dangerous. Neville, you speak of imagination as the only reality. Yes, imagination is a fountain, but a fountain that may overflow and drown the man who drinks without discipline. Many who discover imagination fall into fantasy. They mistake daydreams for creation. They wander in castles of air, intoxicated by inner visions, but they do not integrate these visions. They are carried away, inflated by the archetype of the magician, believing themselves omnipotent. And when reality resists, they collapse. This is why I say, unchecked imagination can be as dangerous as unhealed shadow. Imagination, yes, creates images, but without confrontation of the unconscious, without integration of the shadow, these images deceive. They become what I have called autonomous complexes, little gods that possess the man, leading him not to wealth, but to ruin. Joseph, you emphasize affirmation and belief impressed upon the subconscious. You too are correct, but even you must see. Many repeat affirmations endlessly, yet their life does not change. Why? Because beneath their conscious effort lies an unconscious resistance, an archetypal pattern, a wound that no mere repetition can dissolve. It must be faced. It must be brought to consciousness. It must be integrated. Otherwise, the affirmation remains a mask stretched over a wound. Gentlemen, you speak of law. I speak of psyche. And the psyche is not merely a servant awaiting command. It is a living system containing opposites, light and shadow, conscious and unconscious. When one side is exalted, the other rebels. When you exalt imagination, the shadow resists. When you exalt subconscious law, the conscious intellect resents. Harmony comes not by domination, but by integration. I will tell you of a patient, a wealthy man outwardly, yet inwardly tormented. He dreamed often of a beggar. He despised this figure, rejected him. Yet the beggar was part of his soul, his shadow. He imagined abundance, yes. He affirmed wealth, yes. But his shadow of fear and guilt devoured his peace. Only when he recognized the beggar as part of himself, only when he honored this image and integrated it, did his torment cease. Then wealth became joy, not prison. Neville, you ask, is not shadow an image? Yes, it is, but an image that resists imagination's command until it is integrated. You say, revise it. I agree, revision may heal, but revision must not be used as escape. A man cannot simply cover his wound with a new picture. He must first feel the wound, acknowledge it, understand it. Then revision has power. Otherwise, imagination becomes denial. And Joseph, you say the subconscious can be cleansed by repetition. Yes, repetition has power. But I tell you, if the repressed is not made conscious, repetition may suppress it further, but it will return with greater force. You cannot command the unconscious, like a servant, forever. At some point, it demands recognition. Now, let us speak of wealth. Wealth is not merely coins, nor merely states. Wealth is also symbol. Gold has always been symbol of the self, the inner wholeness. When a man chases outer wealth without inner integration, he is chasing the shadow of gold, not the essence. But when he seeks the inner gold, when he integrates shadow, honors archetypes, and follows the path of individuation, then outer wealth may come as symbol, not master. Neville, you speak of imagination living in the end. Joseph, you speak of affirmations impressing belief. I say both are techniques, but the deeper question is this: who is the one imagining? Who is the one affirming? If the ego alone imagines, if the ego alone affirms, it becomes inflation. But if the self imagines, if the whole psyche affirms, then creation is true. This is why I place individuation at the center. Individuation is the union of opposites, the integration of conscious and unconscious, shadow and light. Without individuation, wealth is unstable. With individuation, wealth becomes meaningful. Let me tell you of synchronicity, for here lies a bridge between us. Neville, you say imagination hardens into fact. Joseph, you say belief impresses the subconscious and manifests. I say when inner images align with unconscious integration, outer events arrange in synchronicity. The right man is met. The right opportunity appears, not by chance, not by toil, but by meaningful coincidence. This is the psyche revealing its unity with the cosmos. Wealth, then, is not simply imposed from above, nor demanded by imagination. It is drawn by the alignment of the whole psyche with the self. The shadow must be faced, the archetypes honored, imagination disciplined, the subconscious impressed. All must be integrated. So I ask you both, are you teaching men to become whole, or only to chase shadows of wealth? If a man imagines abundance but represses fear, he may gain riches but lose peace. If a man affirms prosperity but denies shadow, he may rise but fall harder. Wealth without wholeness is fragile. Wealth with wholeness is eternal. Therefore, I declare, the secret law of wealth is individuation. Wealth is the outer symbol of inner wholeness. Integrate the shadow, discipline imagination, impress truth upon the subconscious, and wealth will appear as symbol of the self-realized. Gentlemen, let us not flatter the ego with promises of easy riches. Let us teach men to become whole, and in their wholeness, wealth will flow.
My dear friends, I must speak plainly, for I fear we are dressing the law in robes so elaborate that the common man cannot wear them. Carl, you warn against inflation of the imagination. You speak of the shadow, of individuation, of archetypes and synchronicity. These are profound, yes, but I must ask, must we cloak the simple truth of divine law in terms so complex that the weary soul turns away? And Neville, you insist imagination is the fountain. You say the subconscious is but servant. Yet I tell you, the subconscious is no mere servant. It is divine intelligence itself. It contains the wisdom of the body, the guidance of the spirit, the pattern of infinite order. Imagination paints, yes, but it is the subconscious that gives breath and form to the image. Without it, imagination withers. Let me be clear. The subconscious is not separate from imagination, nor from shadow. It is the vast ocean in which all images swim, in which all shadows reside, in which all patterns take shape. To impress the subconscious with truth is to heal shadow, to direct imagination, to align with archetype. Carl, you ask if affirmations can reach the buried wounds of childhood. I answer, yes, because truth is stronger than error. A child told he is worthless carries that wound in his subconscious. But if, as an adult, he affirms daily, I am worthy, I am loved, I am a child of the infinite, those words, repeated with faith, enter the subconscious, dissolve the old impression, and plant the new. This is not denial. It is re-education. You speak of integration, Carl, and I agree. But integration occurs when the subconscious is cleansed of false beliefs and impressed with divine truth. The shadow is not an eternal adversary. It is simply unhealed suggestion. Shine the light of truth through affirmation, and the shadow yields. And Neville, you ask, is not imagination the source of all? I answer, imagination is the channel, but subconscious law is the foundation. You may imagine wealth, but if your subconscious rejects it, nothing changes. A man imagines castles, but wakes to poverty, because deep within, his subconscious still believes in lack. But if he persists in imagining with faith, what is he doing? He is impressing the subconscious until it yields. So you see, Neville, the end is always the same. The subconscious must accept. Imagination is the brush. The subconscious is the canvas. Shadow is the stain. Truth is the cleansing light. Archetypes are patterns. The subconscious is the loom. Let me tell you of a woman who suffered from what you might call shadow, Carl. She hated wealth, for she believed the wealthy were cruel. Yet she longed for abundance. I told her, each day declare, wealth is good, wealth is freedom, wealth is God in action. At first, she resisted, but she persisted. Soon, the hatred dissolved, the shadow lifted. Wealth came, and with it, joy. Did she need to analyze archetypes? No. She needed to impress truth upon her subconscious. The shadow obeyed. Another man came, plagued by fantasies of failure. He said, I imagine success, but fear returns. I told him, your fear is but a habit of the subconscious. Replace it by repetition. Each night affirm, I succeed in all my ways. Infinite intelligence guides me. He did so. And fear dissolved. Success followed. Again, the subconscious was the key. Carl, you warned that unchecked imagination leads to delusion. Yes, I agree. But guided imagination, clothed in truth, becomes creative. Neville, you say imagination is all. Yes, but imagination unguided is fancy. Imagination guided by faith, impressed upon the subconscious, becomes fact. Therefore, I say the law is simple. Impress the subconscious with what you desire, until it accepts. Do it through imagination. Yes. Do it through affirmation. Yes. Do it through gratitude. Yes. The method may vary, but the law does not change. Now let me turn your cross questions back upon you. Neville, you say imagination is the only reality. But tell me, who sustains the body? Who heals the cut? Who grows the child in the womb? It is not imagination, it is the subconscious. Imagination may picture healing, but the subconscious carries it out. Imagination may picture wealth, but the subconscious arranges the means. Without subconscious intelligence, imagination is but a picture on water. Do you deny this? Carl, you say man must confront his shadow. I ask you, how many men can sit in analysis for years? How many can untangle archetypes and symbols? The weary worker, the poor widow, the frightened child. Are they to be deprived of wealth until they master psychology? Or can they, by simple affirmation of truth, by simple prayer, impress the subconscious and be free? I say the latter. For divine law is simple, not complex. You may call it individuation. Neville may call it assumption. I call it divine order. But all roads lead here. The subconscious accepts what is impressed with faith and expresses it. So I insist, the secret law of wealth is the law of the subconscious. It contains divine intelligence. It heals shadow. It responds to imagination. It arranges synchronicity. It is the silent ruler. For the one listening now, I say, do not be lost in theories. Do not complicate what is simple. Begin today. Speak to your subconscious as to a trusted friend. Say, I am wealthy now. Infinite supply flows to me. Divine order governs my affairs. Repeat it, feel it, believe it. Persist until it is accepted. And once accepted, wealth must appear. Neville, Carl, you may weave grand philosophies, but I speak to the heart of man. And the heart of man longs for a simple law, a law he can use now. That law is this: impress wealth upon the subconscious, and wealth will be yours. This is divine truth, tested, proven, unfailing.
Joseph, Carl, you speak with conviction, and I do not dismiss your wisdom. Joseph, you say the subconscious is the canvas, and Carl, you say the shadow must be faced. Yet I must ask you both, what paints upon the canvas? What redeems the shadow? It is imagination. Without imagination, the subconscious is dormant, and the shadow remains unhealed. Joseph, you insist the subconscious carries out the work, healing the body, arranging the affairs, expressing the belief impressed upon it. I agree, it expresses. But I must remind you, the subconscious accepts only what the conscious imagination feels as real. The picture comes first, Joseph. The acceptance comes second. Without imagination, there is nothing to accept. You say affirmation can dissolve a wound of childhood? Yes, I do not deny it. But what is affirmation? It is an imaginal act clothed in words. Repetition of words without feeling is empty. But when a man repeats until he feels, what has he done? He has imagined. He has entered the state of worthiness, of freedom, of abundance. The subconscious obeyed not the word, but the feeling clothed in imagination. Let me give an example. A man told me, "I affirm daily, yet nothing changes." I asked him, "Do you feel the truth of your affirmation, or do you parrot words in hope?" He confessed he only repeated without entering the state. I told him, "Enter the scene of your desire. See yourself already possessing it. Feel it real. Do this until it saturates your being." He obeyed, and soon his outer world changed. The difference was not the affirmation itself, but the imaginal state behind it. So, Joseph, I say to you, affirmation is imagination in disguise. The subconscious does not accept syllables. It accepts the imaginal feeling behind them. Carl, you speak of shadow and warn against unchecked fantasy. I agree. Fantasy without persistence, imagination without feeling, is useless. But revision is not fantasy. Assumption is not escape. They are deliberate imaginal acts, persisted in until they become reality. You say the shadow must be faced. Yes. And how is it faced? By revising the memory that created it, by imagining it whole. I once counseled a woman tormented by a cruel childhood memory. She carried unworthiness like a chain. I told her each night, return to that memory, but rewrite it. See your parent praising you. Hear the words of love instead of scorn. Feel the worth instead of shame. She obeyed, and in time, the memory itself changed. The shadow dissolved. The wound was healed. And her life transformed. What healed her? Not analysis alone, not affirmation alone. Imagination healed her. Carl, you call wealth a symbol of gold, an archetype of the self. I do not deny symbolism, but symbols are imaginal forms. They live in the collective imagination. Archetypes are eternal images, yes, but images nonetheless. To honor them is to honor imagination. Now let me tell you plainly, all law is imaginal law. The subconscious is imagination asleep. Affirmation is imagination repeated. Shadow is imagination rejected. Archetype is imagination eternal. Synchronicity is imagination unfolding in time. There is no escape from imagination. It is the only reality. You may say, Joseph, that divine order is simple. Yes, it is simple. Imagine the end and persist. You may say, Carl, that man must confront his shadow. Yes, but he must confront it imaginally, not as a monster, but as an image to be revised. So let us not obscure the truth. The secret law of wealth is not merely to affirm, nor merely to integrate. It is to live in the end in imagination. For when you assume the state, the subconscious obeys, the shadow yields, synchronicity aligns. I knew a man who longed for promotion. He affirmed, but nothing came. He analyzed, but the shadow mocked him. Then he imagined. He saw himself shaking hands, heard the words, "Congratulations." He felt the reality. He persisted until it was natural, and the promotion came. Tell me, Joseph, Carl, what law explained this? It was imagination. Another woman longed for freedom from poverty. She told me she prayed, but her prayers were begging. I said, pray as though it is done. Assume the wish fulfilled. She began each night to imagine her sister congratulating her, embracing her, saying, "I'm so happy for your success." She heard it. She felt it. She lived in it. Within months, her life reflected her assumption. Again, imagination. So Joseph, Carl, I challenge you both. Can the subconscious accept without imagination? Can the shadow be healed without revision? Can archetypes be honored without image? You must admit, imagination is the root, the seed, the fountain. Therefore, I declare, the true law of wealth is the law of imagination. Live in the end. Feel it real. Persist until the imaginal act hardens into fact. Joseph, your affirmations are imaginal acts, clothed in words. Carl, your shadow work is imaginal revision, clothed in analysis. Both roads return to one source, imagination. So let us say to the one listening, tonight, close your eyes. Enter the scene of your desire fulfilled. Feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude. Rest in it as though it were true. Do this, and the subconscious will obey. The shadow will dissolve, and life will yield. Imagination is not escape, it is creation. It is not denial, it is revision. It is not fantasy, it is law. And the law of wealth is this: imagine the end and live in it. For imagination is the only reality.
My friends, you both speak with fire. Joseph with the assurance of a law made simple, Neville with the passion of imagination as the fountain of all things. Yet I must temper this fire with caution, for I have seen men destroyed as often as healed by these very forces. Neville, you say imagination is the only reality. I do not deny its power, but I must remind you, reality is not the image alone. It is also the one who imagines, and that one is not whole, but divided. In every man, there is light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, persona and self. If you tell a divided man to imagine wealth, he may succeed outwardly, but the division within will turn the gold to ash. Joseph, you say affirmations can heal even the deepest wound. I do not dismiss this, yet I have sat with countless souls who repeated phrases until their lips were dry, yet the wound remained. Why? Because the wound was not conscious. It was hidden, repressed, living as an autonomous complex in the psyche. To tell a man to affirm without confronting the wound is like telling him to plaster a wall while the foundation crumbles beneath. I must therefore insist, the psyche is not a simple machine to be commanded. It is a living organism, an ecosystem of opposites. And if you exalt one law, imagination, affirmation, subconscious, without balancing the others, you invite disaster. I recall a man who practiced imagination with fervor. He imagined wealth daily. He lived in the end. He persisted. And indeed, he gained wealth. But he had not confronted his shadow. He repressed his greed, his fear of loss, his envy of others. Wealth magnified these shadows. Soon he was consumed by paranoia, driven by compulsion, estranged from those he loved. His imagination created, yes, but it created a prison, not freedom. Another woman affirmed endlessly, declaring herself prosperous, worthy, loved. Yet beneath, she carried a deep shadow of self-hatred. She never confronted it. Her affirmations became a mask, a persona she wore. But when crisis struck, the mask fell, and despair engulfed her. Do you see? Imagination and affirmation are powerful, but power without integration is perilous. Neville, you ask, what is the shadow if not an image? Yes, it is an image, but it is an image with autonomy. The shadow resists the will. It is not dissolved by simple revision, unless the man also feels its reality, admits its presence, honors its message. To revise without acknowledgement is denial. Denial strengthens the shadow. Joseph, you ask, must all men undergo analysis to be free? No, not all, but all must at least acknowledge their darkness. To teach wealth without warning of shadow is to give a sword to a child. He may cut fruit, or he may cut himself. Now let me speak of archetypes. The archetype of abundance is not merely a mental picture. It is a pattern older than man, a collective image woven into the soul of humanity. To align with it is to awaken forces far greater than the individual. But to misuse it, to imagine wealth selfishly, to affirm prosperity without service, is to call down the trickster, the shadow of abundance, which deceives and destroys. And what of synchronicity? When a man integrates his inner life, coincidences arise that guide him. But if his inner life is divided, coincidences may mislead. He may mistake random chance for divine order, following illusions into ruin. Without individuation, synchronicity is a riddle, not a revelation. So I say to you both, the true law of wealth is not merely to imagine, nor merely to affirm, but to integrate. Wealth must not be pursued as escape from shadow, but as symbol of wholeness. Gold is the symbol of the self, the inner treasure of integration. Outer gold without inner gold is counterfeit. Inner gold attracts outer gold naturally, but even if it does not, the man who has found inner gold is already wealthy. Neville, you exalt imagination. Joseph, you exalt subconscious law. I say exalt neither above the self. For the self is the totality of the psyche, conscious and unconscious, shadow and light, image and substance. Wealth is one symbol of the self realized. Let me cross-question now. Neville, you say all is imagination. But if all is imagination, what restrains madness? What prevents a man from losing himself in fantasies? If you tell a man to imagine without guiding him to integrate shadow, what prevents him from inflating into delusion? Do you not see that unchecked imagination may enslave as much as it liberates? Joseph, you say all is subconscious law. But if all is subconscious, where is freedom? Where is choice? You reduce man to machine, fed by suggestion. But man is not machine. He is a soul. He must not only receive commands, but must also awaken to meaning. Do you not see that suggestion without awareness can make man a slave to whoever commands him? So I insist again, individuation is the safeguard. The true law of wealth is not mere manifestation, but transformation. Wealth is the outer reflection of inner wholeness. If you seek gold without wholeness, you invite ruin. If you seek wholeness, gold may come, but whether it comes or not, you are already rich. Therefore, I conclude, imagination, affirmation, subconscious law, these are tools, but the craftsman is the self. Use the tools without knowing the self, and you may harm yourself. Know the self, and the tools become instruments of freedom. Gentlemen, the question was asked, what is the secret law of wealth? I answer, the secret law of wealth is individuation. To become whole, to integrate shadow, to align with archetype, to walk in synchronicity. Then wealth, inner and outer, will flow as symbol of the self realized. And to the one listening, I say, do not be seduced by promises of easy riches. Do not imagine without reflection. Do not affirm without awareness. Face your shadow. Seek wholeness. Become yourself. Then you will know true wealth, which no thief can steal, no fire consume, no time destroy. Inner gold, the treasure of the self.
You speak of individuation, Carl, and of imagination as master, Neville. Yet I return to my simple law. The subconscious is the silent ruler. It takes what is impressed and expresses it. That is why affirmations, prayer, thanksgiving work. They are channels to the subconscious.
But Joseph, isn't that the very point? The subconscious accepts only what the imagination clothes in feeling. A man can repeat words 1,000 times, but if he does not imagine the end fulfilled, the subconscious hears nothing new. It simply echoes the old.
And yet, Joseph, many repeat for years and remain bound. Why? Because the repressed wound resists their repetition. They may say, I am wealthy, but deep within, the child's voice cries, you are worthless. Unless he faces that voice, the affirmation is plaster over
I would
rot.
not call it nothing, Neville. Repetition itself is a seed. Even if the man begins coldly, the words carve grooves into the deeper mind. In time, they gather feeling. I have seen men begin with doubt, repeating only by duty, but persistence carried them into faith. The subconscious responded.
Carl, I hear you. But revision is the answer. He need not wallow in the wound. He must rewrite it. Take the memory. See it anew. Hear the words of love instead of scorn. Feel the approval instead of shame. When he does this in imagination, the shadow is redeemed.
And yet, Neville, not every man is ready to rewrite. Some must first face the pain, acknowledge it, let it speak. Otherwise, revision is denial. The shadow does not vanish because we cover its face. It vanishes when we embrace it, when we integrate it, my friend. That's the path to true individuation.
But must the common man dig endlessly in the past? I think not. Truth spoken with faith penetrates the deepest recess. I am guided, I am worthy, I am wealthy now. Repeated with conviction, it casts out the lie without needing to name it. Why burden a weary soul with years of excavation?
You call it excavation. I call it awareness. A man who never admits envy, greed, fear, how can he be free? He may gain riches, but his psyche is unbalanced. Wealth without integration is bondage.
Yet, Carl, even integration is an imaginal act. To embrace the shadow, he must imagine himself whole. To redeem the past, he must revise the image. You speak of individuation, but individuation itself is imagination at work.
Perhaps, but imagination unguided is peril. I've seen seekers, you see, inflate with fantasies of grandeur, believing themselves gods, and then collapse into psychosis. Imagination must be tethered, my friend, to self, to archetype, to ethical ground. Otherwise, it devours.
Here we agree. Imagination must be guided. But I say it is guided by truth, by divine order impressed upon the subconscious. When man speaks truth in prayer, when he repeats it faithfully, he is guiding imagination, cleansing shadow, aligning with archetype. All by one simple law, the subconscious accepts.
And I return again. Joseph, who guides the subconscious, if not imagination. Words only become truth when imagined as true. Repetition only works when it stirs the imaginal feeling. The subconscious is not the origin, it is the womb. The seed is always imagination.
Then we circle back to this. Perhaps imagination is seed, subconscious is soil, and shadow is the stone buried in the field. If the farmer does not remove the stone, the seed may sprout weakly or not at all. Integration clears the ground.
A poetic image, Carl, but I insist. The light of truth dissolves even the stone. The farmer need not wrestle with every rock. The rain of divine words softens them. The soil shifts. Affirm truth, and the subconscious rearranges even the hidden.
And I say, the rain itself is imagination. The farmer feels the harvest before he sees it, and by feeling, the stones lose
You both
power.
speak of harvest, but do not forget, the harvest is not only bread, it is also meaning. Wealth gained without inner wholeness is poison. Wealth with wholeness is sacrament.
Carl, you speak as though I deny meaning. But what is divine order if not meaning? When a man's subconscious is impressed with truth, his life takes shape with harmony. That harmony is
And
meaning.
when he lives in the end, when he assumes the wish fulfilled, he enters meaning at once. He tastes tomorrow today. That is why imagination is freedom. My
Perhaps
friend.
we are each circling the same mystery from different sides. You call it subconscious, Joseph. You call it imagination, Neville. I call it self. But let us agree. The danger lies not in the law itself, but in the man who uses it. If he seeks escape, it betrays him. If he seeks wholeness, it blesses him.
I can grant that.
As can I. Joseph, Carl, perhaps we are closer than we think. We speak different tongues, but the heart of it is the same. You call it subconscious, Joseph. You call it individuation, Carl. I call it imagination. All three are faces of the same truth. Man creates his world from within.
Yes, Neville, but the danger of your language is this. The man in despair hears you say, imagination is reality, and thinks, then why am I still poor? He imagines briefly, but doubt remains. His subconscious is still impressed with lack. Without discipline, he will grow
And that
weary.
is why persistence is everything. One does not imagine once and expect the world to bow. One persists until the imaginal scene feels natural. Joseph, persistence is what you call repetition. The difference is that I emphasize feeling. For feeling is the secret.
Yet you both circle around discipline, and I will not let you forget the shadow. The man may persist, yes. He may repeat, yes. But if deep within, he hates the wealthy, envies the successful, fears responsibility, then no matter his repetition, no matter his imagination, the shadow resists. He must face it, or else his wealth will turn to
Carl,
torment.
you make the shadow too powerful. It is but false belief. Why grant it such authority? A man may affirm truth until it dissolves falsehood. God is my supply. I am worthy. Wealth is mine now. Repeat it enough, and the subconscious accepts it. The shadow vanishes like
and
smoke.
yet, Joseph, you know not all wounds dissolve so easily. I have seen men repeat for years, yet the wound remained. Not smoke, but stone. For some, truth spoken with conviction works. For others, they must first name the wound, see it, feel it, bring it to light. Denial
Carl,
cannot heal.
denial is not what I teach. I do not tell a man to ignore his shadow. I tell him to revise it. If his father scorned him, he need not live forever in that wound. He can go back in imagination and rewrite it. He can hear his father bless him. he can feel love instead of rejection. And when he persists, the shadow is not denied. It is redeemed.
Revision may redeem, yes, but only if the man truly faces the wound first. You see, too many seek escape through fantasy, pretending the wound never was. That is not healing. That is repression. A repressed shadow grows stronger in silence.
Then let me say this. Whether one names the wound or revises it, the power that heals is the same. The subconscious responding to truth. The method may differ, but the law is one.
And I insist, it is imagination that plants truth in the subconscious. The subconscious is servant. Imagination
And I
is
insist,
master.
master or servant, both must be guided by the self. Without wholeness, wealth is a curse. With wholeness, even poverty can feel
Then
rich.
perhaps, Carl, the self you speak of, is the same divine order I proclaim. And Neville, the imagination you exalt is the same faculty through which man impresses truth. We differ in words, but perhaps not so much
Perhaps
in
so.
essence.
Yet I will not yield this. Imagination is the root. Without it, no truth can be impressed, no shadow redeemed, no archetype honored. The world is imagination pushed out.
And I will not yield this. Imagination unguided can destroy. The psyche must be made whole. Wealth without wholeness is ruin.
And I will not yield this. Truth impressed upon the subconscious is the simplest, surest path. Any man, woman, or child may use it without philosophy, without analysis, without complexity. Speak to your deeper mind, and it obeys.
Then let us each declare plainly, for those listening, what we see as the core of the law.
I declare, the secret law of wealth is subconscious impression. Whatever is accepted as true within become fact without. Impress truth, and truth
I
appears.
declare, the secret law of wealth is imagination. Live in the end. Assume the wish fulfilled and persist until it hardens into fact.
And I declare, the secret law of wealth is individuation. Integrate the shadow. Honor the archetype. Follow synchronicity. Then wealth becomes symbol of wholeness.
3 voices, 3 laws. Yet perhaps they are one law spoken 3 ways.
Yes, 3 roads, 1 source.
And perhaps the listener's task is not to choose, but to weave.
They have spoken at length, Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, Carl Jung, but before we close, we ask them, is there one truth they can share as one voice, one law of wealth, seen from 3 paths?
Then let me begin. I hold still that the subconscious is the silent ruler. It accepts what is impressed and expresses it. If a man feeds it lies, it expresses lies. If he feeds it truth, it expresses truth. This is the law, as I have proved
And I
it.
still say, imagination is the fountain. For what is impressed upon the subconscious except imagination? One is belief, but an imaginal act accepted. Imagination is the seed, the soil, and the harvest.
And I remain with individuation. For what is the use of wealth if it enslaves the soul? A man must integrate shadow, honor archetype, follow synchronicity. Wealth without wholeness is ruin.
And yet, Carl, does not integration happen when truth is impressed upon the subconscious?
And does not truth itself arise in imagination? When a man imagines himself whole, he begins individuation.
Then perhaps we are speaking of a circle. Imagination plants the image. The subconscious accepts and expresses it. And individuation ensures that what grows is not poison, but gold. 3 steps of one
Yes,
process.
that is harmony. For the law must be simple enough for any soul to use, yet deep enough to satisfy the searching mind. The subconscious is universal. Every man has it. Imagination is universal. Every man can picture. The shadow is universal. Every man must face it. Therefore, the law of wealth is universal.
Then let us say plainly, imagine the end. Feel it real. The subconscious will obey. And if you persist, life will mirror it. But do so with awareness, with integrity, with willingness to face the shadow. Then the gold will not destroy, but sanctify.
Agreed. The law of wealth is not escape, but transformation. It is not fantasy, but integration. The man who imagines wealth while repressing shadow will gain riches and lose himself. The man who integrates shadow and imagines truth will gain himself, and wealth will follow. You see, it's about a deeper understanding of oneself, a journey into the depths of the psyche.
Then to the listener, let us give one unified teaching. Speak to your subconscious as though wealth were already yours. Say with faith, I am guided, I am worthy, I am wealthy now. Repeat it until it feels true.
And when you say it, do not merely repeat. Enter the scene. Imagine yourself already there. Hear the words of congratulations. Feel the joy of fulfillment. Live
And
in
as
the
you
end.
do not deny what rises from the depths. If envy comes, face it. If fear comes, name it. If guilt comes, embrace it. These are shadows seeking integration. Bring them into the light of your imagination and let them be redeemed. Then your wealth will be whole.
Yes, wealth that brings peace, not torment.
Wealth that flows naturally, not forced.
Wealth that symbolizes the self, the inner gold.
3 voices, 1 law.
One law, many garments.
And the garment most fitting is the one you wear with wholeness.
And so they speak as one. Murphy reminds you, impress truth upon the subconscious. Neville reminds you, imagination creates reality. Jung reminds you, integrate the shadow and seek wholeness. 3 masters, 3 paths, 1 law. The secret law of wealth is not toil, not chance, not luck, but the inner life made visible. Subconscious belief, imaginal act, and psychic integration weave together to shape your destiny. So tonight, speak truth, imagine fulfillment, face your shadow, and walk as though wealth were already yours. For in that union of faith, imagination, and wholeness, wealth cannot resist you.